And we're set to get underway here in Game 1 of the Houston National Showcase from December the 29th, 2012. My name's Mark Mulvaney. I'll be here for you with scouting commentary and notes on players. Coaches, if you're watching the game online, obviously you have the ability to check on reports. All you have to do is click on a player's name on the roster, and it'll take you to updated information with scouting reports, video updates, and any other information you need to know about any player participating in today's showcase. Hannah Parker, a 2014 out of Altoona, Iowa, will be in the circle. Aubrey Spacek to lead it off for the Lime team. 2015 outfielder out of Roanoke, Texas. Spacek is coming off an injured ankle today, which will affect mobility. You'll see on the 3 or 4 steps out of the box and even coming back to the plate that she still is showing signs that it's not healed 100%. She's already put up a good raw 2-6 number home to first base for us. The National Showcase for Spacek really is more about showing high-level hitting tools at the plate. She doesn't swing away. She is a slap-only hitting prospect. But really what we wanted to see out of Spacek was the ability to bounce the ball and to try to do a couple of things with the defense that show that she can be a slap-only hitting prospect at the next level. In the circle, Hannah Parker is going to feature mainly a drop, curve, rise, and a change. She can throw the change up in any count. Was very successful in it when we saw her in Des Moines, Iowa earlier this year. And the changeup itself is very effective if she throws the ball up in the zone early in the count because it holds the plane of more of a curve or rise versus a drop. Uncharacteristic play for Miranda Holguin. Miranda had a really good showing in the San Antonio Regional Showcase just a few weeks prior. And as luck would have it, the first ball hit of the afternoon goes to the youngest player on the red team. Holguin, just a 2017. Does have a chance to become an All-American this year. One of the more exciting defensive prospects that we've seen recently. Spacek will need a runner at first base. Kylie Holmesley will report in as the pinch runner. Kennedy Crease comes to the Houston National Showcase from a St. Louis Regional. Crease, a 2014 second baseman. Above average speed out of the box and does a really nice job of running out of the box and staying aggressive, as you can already see that. Nixon playing in close at third base already, and one of the things that makes this play possible is because you'll see Nixon behind the plate in a couple of innings, and to get Holmesley going back to first base, you really saw that Nixon was able to change up her arm circle and stay really short to get the ball back to first base on time. Tana Huey at the plate, a 2015 outfielder out of Powderly, Texas. This is one of the more intriguing matchups of the day with the lefty on lefty. Huey's teammate, Caroline Collins. They play travel ball together currently for the Texas Inception. Both walk away from Houston as highly ranked players in the FSR system. In fact, less than half of a point separates Collins and Huey from each other in the database. Huey able to go up and out of the strike zone to put a ball past two pretty tough defenders right there, and Nixon and Holguin. And that's what really separates Huey from a lot of really good young hitters, is the fact that she really shows the ability to hit for average, and that she has the skill set to really hit for power later on. She's got a lot of raw power, and you'll see her actual power numbers climb. The home run total should climb as she gets older. 2017 Anastasia Labus at the plate now. Labus put on a legendary performance in the Austin Regional Showcase. I believe the home run total was 8 out of 10 or 8 out of 12 pitches. Probably averaged about 240, 250 each that she hit. She hit 8 home runs in a round of BP that day. We had seen her previously the day before in San Antonio, where she challenged to hit a scoreboard in a game. It was about 265, 270 feet from home plate. And you see right now, one of the things that has us very high on Labus is the fact that when she goes out of the strike zone, unlike a lot of young hitters, she's not going to slow the bat down. She still attacks the ball extremely well too. Mary Beth Gorsuch will be in the circle for the line team to start the bottom of the first inning. Gorsuch, a 2016 out of Lewisville, Texas, in the Dallas area. Melissa Rodriguez leads off. Rodriguez, a 2014 outfielder out of San Antonio, Texas. 2014 catcher, shortstop Marley Boyd will be behind the plate with Gorsuch in the first 2 innings, calling pitches. Catchers do call pitches at regional and national showcase events. And just like it happens to the red team, the first ball for the lime team, the field goes to the youngest player on the field, Anastasia Labus, out of Austin, Texas. Gets really good extension. Has pretty good length at 5'7". And still a lot of athletic ability to project with Labus. Paige Tossi, 2014 outfielder out of the Austin area. As you watch Gorsuch pitch during a national showcase in her 2 games, you will notice there are some pitches that will be affected by a slightly injured hand that she has right now. You're likely to see better movement and command away from left-handed hitters today. She's having a little bit of trouble getting over the top of the drop and throwing the curveball today. Anastasia Labus again at shortstop. You'll see on the replay she's got plenty of arm to make this play at 64 miles per hour overhand, and still several years to get up into the upper 60s, which is where we expect her to land with her arm strength after it's all said and done. Gorsuch showing some pretty decent run on the screwball early in the game. Pitcher versus pitcher matchup as Hannah Parker steps in. Gorsuch and Parker, both pretty good hitting prospects as well. Both show power at the plate. Parker a little bit more of a pull hitter than Gorsuch. At game time for game one, about 45 degrees, about a 15 mile per hour north wind blowing in here in Houston. Rise ball should be effective for Gorsuch, even with the injured hand, being able to stay back and stay underneath the pitch. And she does get to call on that screwball.
So going out to like 15 or so?
Yeah, about 15. And what you're doing, because
You get more air, and more of that.
and the red, I had to zoom out a little bit anyway, and I thought it looked good.
Hannah Parker back out for her second inning of work. Mary Beth Gorsuch, who just had a 1-2-3 bottom half of the first inning, leads it off for the Lime team. As I talked about earlier, Gorsuch and Parker both pretty good hitting prospects as well. Gorsuch obviously having a lot of length and leverage at the plate. And the thing to notice on that play is the instincts of the young shortstop Miranda Holguin, as she actually trails Katie Burdick on Paige Tossie's relay throw back into third base. Something we don't see a lot of. Gorsuch doing a nice job of keeping the hands back, not over-rotating and getting open early on a ball that's trying to backdoor from Parker. And that's something the right-handed hitters are going to have to be very aware of with Parker today, is her ability to really try to backdoor and bend the ball around the outside corner to a right-handed hitter. Alexis Greathouse, 2014 first baseman out of Lake Jackson, Texas, at the plate now. '15 catcher Mackenzie Jones doing the catching and calling the signals for Hannah Parker. Jones also out of Iowa. She's out of West Des Moines and Valley High School. Mackenzie hit the ball pretty well in the Des Moines, Iowa Regional Showcase. And there's a really good look at Parker's changeup. Again, with Parker's changeup, the higher it starts, typically the better. And this is only working off of something else that's up in the zone. Her changeup is much less effective if she's trying to throw it off of a drop. And to go back to that point, when you watch Parker's changeup come out, it comes out high and it has a lot of dive to it at the end. So if she's pitching off of drop ball after drop ball after drop ball, a lot of times you'll see when she goes to her changeup that it's too much of a discrepancy for hitters and they pick it up really early. If she's working her changeup off a curve or rise, she's doing pretty good. Marley Boyd, 2014 catcher at the plate. Boyd had a really good round of batting practice, is starting to hit the ball the other way exceptionally well these days. And Boyd's an interesting player. We saw her for the first time in May of 2011. And it's almost been incredible what this kid's turned into in the last 18 or 19 months. She started off as a catcher, made it to the Southwest Showcase the first year, but didn't even get to catch, had to go play the outfield, and decided to pay her dues and go through it as an outfielder the first time to see what it's about. Came back last year as a shortstop and a catcher, was one of the best kids out there defensively. Boyd is a 2014. Not your prototypical physical shortstop or catcher, but really gets the job done nicely. You'll see throughout the day, makes any play behind the plate, does a lot of good things at shortstop, real comfortable to her backhand side, throws the ball well, the velocity's up in the low to mid 60s. Gorsuch to runner at third. And as you see there, one of the things that makes Boyd so effective is her strike zone awareness. She is a threat to steal in this situation as well. Crystal Requejo, 2015 out of Austin at the plate. In the times that we've seen Requejo, she stepped up and been a pretty good gamer at times. Doesn't blow you away in batting practice, but seems to get the job done at the plate in games. Started things off in the Austin Regional Showcase with a double to right center field that she hit extremely well, scored a couple runs. Parker trying to nibble low and away just a little bit. Requejo strong enough to fight that ball off and still dump it in the right field. Puts our Lime team up 1-0 early. Reagan Williams out of Maple Grove, Minnesota. Outstanding defensive prospect at third base.
Ball in. Catch.
Williams currently sits 64 miles per hour overhand. Well above average runner for a third baseman. Hits for average, learning to hit for power. That ball literally hitting a tripod down the first baseline. And Holguin shows her arm across the infield. And the thing that you're going to like about Miranda Holguin as you watch her play is that she doesn't back off of that speed at all. Every ball that's hit to her, every ball that she throws, it's with that intensity. She's going to be somebody that's going to be really easy for coaches to watch and to appreciate. 2016 pitcher outfielder Summer Harper at the plate. Travel teammates with Ashley Creasel on the red team. And you can just see how energized Parker gets as she gets more in rhythm in the circle. And that's the prototypical reason that she's got to work up to down in the strike zone, because the changeup is that more effective when she's pitching up on the curve and then drops the changeup down along that same plane and that same starting height. Mary Beth Gorsuch on for her second inning of work. Gorsuch has scored the game's only run with a leadoff triple in the top half of the second inning. Mackenzie Jones will lead it off for our red team. She's been handling the pitching duty. She's been handling the catching duties for pitcher Hannah Parker on the red team. Marley Boyd still behind the plate for the Lime team. Williams, Labus, Crease, and Greathouse your infield. Gets the curveball over that time. If you compare game footage to workout footage with Gorsuch, you'll see a difference there in how much the curve actually moves there. Trying to get over the drop. You can see she's favoring the hand a little bit already. Spring High School, not your typical hitter's park. Deep everywhere but right field with a strong north wind blowing in today. Relatively cold north wind, as you might imagine. About 45 degrees at game time. Gets it on the hands of Jones there. That's the one spot in Jones's swing that a pitcher can go to currently. And it's going to be a tough matchup for her with Gorsuch right now, because Gorsuch's best movement, because of the injured hand, is forcing the screwball to perhaps run a little bit more harder inside than it normally would. And the one spot in Jones' swing right now that she's working on shortening up and getting more efficient in is the ball on the inner half of the plate. We'll see if Boyd goes back to that spot. Gorsuch able to have some success with the curveball there, going away from Jones. Caroline Collins out of Atlanta, Texas, in Atlanta High School. 2014 outfielder, does play some third base. Predominantly, you'll see Collins from the right side of the plate now. Has made a lot of advancements there in the last 6 months. We first saw Collins in the spring of 2012, and she made some significant improvements, especially at the plate, when we saw her again in Austin a few weeks ago. Gets in on her hands there. Very high energy left side of the infield with Labus and Williams. Two very active, two very energetic, two very capable infielders on the left side. Ashley Creasel on deck. One out to Collins. Collins will see a lot of pitches at the plate too. A lot of that instinct probably comes from the fact that she spends a lot of time batting from the left side, but profiles out much better as a right-handed hitter at the next level. Marley Boyd showing off the range with a good block behind the plate. And it looks like Gorsuch actually might be getting loose and starting to get warmed up and a little bit more comfortable with the curve, because she's gone to it for a couple of strikeouts here recently, and it's starting to move more on every pitch. Now the challenge here is going to be that Ashley Creasel Her best pitch is up and away. We'll see how she handles this. Creasel doesn't lift the ball a lot. Good power hitting prospect, hits the ball very hard, just doesn't lift it a lot yet. Should hit some home runs as she matures. As you can see, even when she takes the pitch, Creasel does a nice job of getting late action with her hands so that she's not just very stagnant at the plate. She's always got some sort of movement, and it's typically positive movement that's helping her gain momentum and stretch in her swing. And as you see, as Creasel gets a ball that's over the outer half, she really attacks it every single time. She even has a much different demeanor when she takes the ball down in the zone versus taking a ball up and away in the zone. She's highly aware of the ball that she handles the best in the zone. Creasel with the walk, and that'll bring up Miranda Holguin at the plate. 2017 shortstop out of Cibolo, Texas, which is near San Antonio. Holguin very selective at the plate from what we've seen so far. Doesn't chase out of the zone. Doesn't try to lift the ball. Good line drive hitter. Stays relatively short. Goes out of her zone just a little bit there. And that pitch right there is what makes Holguin are really good as the game transitions more and more to seeing some right-handed hitters bat 1 and 2 in the order. That's what makes her such a good prospect. The instant recognition of that changeup, unlike a lot of older players that you'll see, as soon as she saw the ball slow down, and Gorsuch didn't even throw a bad changeup. When that ball, when she recognized the spin was different and the plane was slightly different, Holguin had no reaction but to just keep the hands back and be patient. Creasel, the runner at first. And Summer Harper makes a really good throw in from right field to keep Creasel at second base. Just out of the reach of Alexis Greathouse at first base. That's probably a play that Greathouse makes if she's behind the bag and behind the runner with 2 outs. Brings up Cynthia Hoff out of Grapevine, Texas, at the plate. Hoff, a freshman at Grapevine High School. And Harper makes another good throw in from right field, but not in time. And Red will even the score at 1-all. Hoff, a really good low ball hitter. It's a swing that you see, and it looks a little long at times, but it's long with really good bat speed. It's more of her actions and the lower body that make the barrel appear to be a little bit long, but she gets to the ball on time. She's hitting against a pitcher that's got plus velocity above 60 miles per hour. And Hoff has demonstrated time and time again with us the ability to hit the ball down into the zone, and especially to hit it the other way well. We do expect Hoff to develop a little bit more power and learn to hit more of a hitter's pitch in the future, but off to a good start as a 2016. Brianna Davis out of Sugar Land, Texas, the batter. Brianna participated in the Houston Regional Showcase back in October at Baseball USA. And Gorsuch rolls through the bottom half of the second inning, gives up 1 run, couple of hits, and headed to the top of the third. We're tied at 1. At the top of the third, Ashley Creasel will be on the pitch for the red team. Creasel wearing number 12 out of Katy, Texas, a 2016 pitcher. And you'll also see Ashley play some first base today. In the outfield, Brianna Davis in left, Paige Tossi in center field. Melissa Rodriguez will round us out in right field here at the top of the third. Kylie Holmesley to lead it off for the green team. Alexis Nixon will move behind the plate from third base and will handle the bulk of the work behind the plate for Creasel today. Hannah Parker slides over to first base after 2 good innings. And is the theme with our pitchers so far. Every single one of them has the ability to swing the bat. Creasel no exception. Creasel makes it to the Houston National Showcase after a good showing at the Houston Regional back in October. And Holmesley aboard to start the top half of the third inning. Creasel and Nixon obviously working with each other for the first time here, trying to get to know one another and what pitches she likes to call. And Aubrey Spasic up for her second time today. In any of our showcase games that coaches watch, one of the things that we take away from any hitter is the ability to lay down a sacrifice bunt. So critical at bat for Spasic to see what she does with the runner at first base, because typically in this situation you'll see a left-handed hitter who predominantly goes from the short game. You'll see her put down a bunt to try to move the runner over, but in this situation she's got to go to plan B, which is what she's here to do today, is to show that she has more to offer on the short game and a lot of variety within the short game itself. As we see Ashley Creasel field the ball, throw it back to second base. good instincts there from a young pitcher. A lot of that has to do with her ability to play first base and to be above average defender at first base, and she carries that into the circle, obviously. Kennedy Crease back up for her second time. And even with the ankle brace, Spasic still plenty enough speed to make it to second base safely. Again, as you read through Spasic's report, a very well above average runner. In this situation, if you're Creasel and Nixon, you're definitely wanting to try to keep the ball to the left side of the infield. With Tana Huey on deck, she has a lot of ways that she can score a runner with good speed from third base with less than 2 outs. That'll bring Tana Huey to the plate for her second at bat. Singled in the top of the first. You can see in Huey's actions that's a pitch she considered. And now the key pitch for Huey, as we talked about earlier, is getting a pitch in the zone and not adjusting your swing, just taking your best hack 2-0. And strong relay throw from Melissa Rodriguez in right field, just a little bit up the first base line. Allows Spasic to score to put the green team up 2-1. And I still believe that's a pitch that you're going to see Huey either lay off of or learn to drive the other way in that situation. Obviously, it scores a run. It's a positive thing for her team. But in Huey's development as a power hitter, one of the things that you're going to see is her really learn to hone in on a certain pitch in that situation, in that 2-0 count, and make sure that she's got something she can really just sink her teeth into at the plate. Anastasia Labus back in the plate. Ideal situation for Anastasia here with a runner at second and third. Huey and Crease, very well above average runners. And the umpire says that one caught the corner. Labus might disagree. I might agree with her. And even though we see Labus go down on strikes there, I still like the approach that she shows the instincts of somebody that's going to hit for power at an early age. The fact that she's able to make a good swing on a really good pitcher's pitch, and that if that ball's elevated or just misses a little bit, and she's got a really good shot to hit that ball the other way. Creasel's under it. And one of the few pitchers that you'll see that you want underneath that ball because she is a pretty good defender out there. And we head to the bottom of the third. Green goes up 2-1 on the Tanahue single that scores Aubrey Spotzik. In the bottom of the third, Kylie Holmesley will be on the pitch for the green team. Anastasia Levis will be back behind the plate calling the signals. And Alexis Nixon for the red team will lead it off. Nixon wearing number 10 out of San Antonio. More specifically, Seguin High School. Lives in Kingsbury, Texas, just outside of Seguin, in the San Antonio area. We saw Nixon make a really good play earlier to record the first 2 outs for the red team on a double play ball. Nixon, short stroke at the plate. Doesn't try to do too much. You'll see her try to work the ball in the middle of the field. Get something middle away, keep it on the line. Doesn't hit a lot in the air. And Alexis Nixon, like several of the other players that are here today, which is why we make sure that when we see kids, we see them in a workout situation and in game settings so that we see who works out good and who plays well. Because Nixon typically does a good job of being consistent and around a batting practice, but you really don't know what you have in Nixon until you watch her, 3 or 4 bats in a day to make sure that everything that she does in BP checks out in the game, because her approach in the game is just dead on. And as we found in Des Moines, Iowa, if you're going to hit the ball at Reagan Williams, you're not going to have a lot of success getting on base. Reagan, one of the better defenders that we've seen at third base this fall. Plays in tight, 64 miles per hour overhand, plus range at the corner. And as we talk about Reagan Williams, some of the better instincts that we see at third base from any player that we've had come through in the last couple of years. Katie Burdick at the plate for the red team, wears number 1. Holmesley takes a little bit off that pitch. Burdick high school teammates with Hannah Parker, who pitched the first 2 innings for the red team. Burdick attended the St. Louis Regional Showcase back in October. And I think that's a pitch that she felt like she had to swing at. You can see the change in bat speed, and that's just a young hitter's approach to letting the officiating kind of play into their approach instead of taking what they can do and just kind of rolling with it. A lot of times we see younger players make the swing that says, I think I had to swing at this pitch, instead of I know it's a ball or I know it's a strike. And you have to live and die by that sometimes. And that'll bring Karen Tennis to the plate with 2 outs. We've seen Tennis at shortstop already. We'll see her in the circle a little bit later on today. And again, Holmesley getting the call on the inside half of the plate. Labus going back to it with the call. I think I'd do the same thing. Tennis, a 2014, out of Bay Area Christian High School. And Kylie Holmesley doing a really good job there of expanding the plate and trying to go a little bit farther inside and a little bit farther inside just to see what the umpire is going to give her. And I like the fact that she's doing that in a 2-1 count. And she's probably questioning a little bit where the zone is, because that's pretty similar to a couple of pitches that she had called on verdict for strikes. But it's December 29th for the umpires too. Melissa Rodriguez at the plate. Rodriguez, a 2014, out of San Antonio, Texas. And Holmesley's got it, and that'll do it for the bottom of the third. We'll head to the top of the fourth. Green holding on to a lead, 2-1 in Game 1 of the Houston Winter National Showcase. Ashley Creasel back on for her second inning of work. The infield sets up with Hannah Parker at first base, Miranda Holguin playing second, Karen Tennis at shortstop, and Cynthia Hoff at third base. Alexis Nixon will call the pitches behind the plate. And Alexis Greathouse out of Lake Jackson will lead it off for the green team, 2014 first baseman. Greathouse was impressive in Houston at the regional showcase. Greathouse had one of the better BP sessions in Houston in the fall. And that was tied into a group that's going to see several of those players advance to the Dallas National Showcase in June of 2013. A very good power hitting group, and she was one of the standouts there. And to be honest with you, that's probably the toughest group of hitters to stand out in that we've seen all fall long. And each one of the players that's here today has to go through a qualification process at one of our regional showcase events to make it to a national showcase. Of the 300 plus players that we saw during fall events this year, we're down to 35 players at this particular national showcase. So not an easy thing to do to advance from a regional showcase, but we like to make sure that players are going to be able to compete and that they've got physical tools that allow them to compete at a high level, and so that we can match them up with similar players at a national showcase so that somebody's not so dominant against competition that they're not likely to see at the next level. Marley Boyd back at the plate for the green team, 2014 catcher shortstop out of Mansfield, Texas. And to go back to the regional and national qualifying process, it's a new process for us this year, and it's something we feel very strongly about, especially from a scouting standpoint, of making sure that when we're reporting on players that we understand everything that we need to know about a player so that we're able to provide that information to college coaches around the country. You'll also notice as you watch the games today that you won't see a first base coach, you won't see a third base coach, you won't see anybody calling pitches. We have people that work with the players during events, but when a player comes out to be scouted, it's important that we see what their instincts and their aptitude is, and we don't need to see what a coach can manufacture out of a player. We need to see what that player has inside of them, and that's what we're here to try to find out with these players today. They've obviously advanced to this level. and to a national showcase because they showed signs of that at the regional. And with one out, Boyd will be aboard at first base. Boyd is a threat to steal. Crystal Requejo at the plate now. 2015 out of Austin, Texas. And Boyd in safely at second base with the stolen base. And I really can't talk about Marley Boyd enough today. Just the fact that where she was when we first saw her versus where she is today is just really impressive. Brianna Davis makes the play in left field. And there are 2 outs here in the top of the 4th. Reagan Williams at the plate, 2015 out of Maple Grove, Minnesota. Obviously not bothered by the 45-degree temperatures in spring Texas today. Kylie Holmesley will be on for her second inning of work as Paige Tossie leads it off for the red team. And so far on our observations of Paige Tossie, it really looks like her future might be somewhere in the neighborhood of swinging away, you know, somewhere between 70 to 80% at the next level. She's developed a lot of power in the last 11 or 12 months. The first time we saw Paige was in January of 2012, where at that point we would have said that she's more likely to be a slapping candidate at the next level. But then when we saw her in Houston just a couple of months ago, the power was drastically different. And even today in the batting practice round, the ball was really jumping off of her bat. It carries pretty well, and she's still got a lot of upside, even as a 2014 hitter, with the fact that she's just really now coming around with the ability to swing the bat. She's always got on base, always will get on base, but the ability to start hitting for some power now is something that's really going to improve her stock as she starts looking at the next level. And especially because more college recruiters are becoming more interested in our left-handed hitting prospects that can hit for power versus just slap-only type prospects. And with that said, some of the advice that we give our left-handed hitters is that if you're not going to run a 2.6 or 2.7 if you're going to be somewhere in that 2.8 to 2.9 range, then swinging away from the left side is always going to be something that's to your advantage. And Marley Boyd made that play look really easy at shortstop. Plenty of arm at 63 miles an hour to get it across the infield in time to get the speedy Paige Tassi at first base. Something else you notice about that throw, right on target, is something that we're used to seeing with Boyd, that she plays quick, she transfers quick, her release is quick, but she also makes sure that she's making accurate throws to first base, which makes that 63 miles per hour a lot more effective than kids that we'll see much higher than that. Kennedy Crease almost coming up with that Hannah Parker infield hit. And that'll bring up Mackenzie Jones to the plate. And Holmesley's doing a really good job right now of making sure everything that she throws, whether it be in or out, has some bite to it at the end. And it's been fairly sharp so far. And every time you see Labus do that, she just looks more and more like an athlete that's going to be ready for the next level. She's one of the kids that you'll see today that makes sense for coaches to recruit early, because she's doing things instinct-wise and athletic-wise that are just tough to find. And some of the things she does are almost singular. And Holmesley elevates that ball just enough from Jones. And we talked about in Jones' first at bat, the ball that's down and in a little bit can expose her swing, but if you elevate the ball, you see what happens there. And that's exactly what we saw Jones do back in Des Moines. As the ball was elevated in BP, she started hitting several home runs and showed a lot of power doing that too. As her swing becomes more adjustable, she's going to be really dangerous. In 2014, Caroline Collins out of Atlanta, Texas, will step into the box now. Collins usually a tough out, sees a lot of pitches, works the count. A low 2.6 runner, so when she gets on base, she creates a lot of problems for the defense. A very aggressive base runner. And again, the story with Collins coming into last month has been when she showed up to the Austin Regional Showcase and hit the ball extremely well from the right side of the plate, which is something we didn't necessarily see about 5 months prior to that, when we saw her late last spring, early summer. It's something that she made a point to go work on. It was something that she expressed that she wanted to improve on, and there's nothing that I like to see better than a kid that improves on what she needs to and comes back out to prove it to us that she's made those adjustments and that she's ready to take it to another level, which is exactly what Collins did in the first part of December in Austin. And it looked like that ball might have been intended for second base. And those are some of the plays that you have with kids that haven't played with each other before. Some of those in-between Texas League type hits, they fall from time to time, but what we're looking for are physical tools and instincts that transcend those teamwork plays. Ashley Creasel back at the plate for the red team. And a lot of times when you look at recruiting and when you look at scouting and the differences there, one of the things that we have to look at from a scouting perspective is a lot of times we have to ignore the polish that some players have on them. Just for the simple fact that if a player knows there's an accepted way of doing something and they apply that, then that's a coaching bullet point that somebody can really take a lot of pride in. A lot of times we see kids out of different parts of the United States that simply haven't been exposed to some of the information that some other areas have. And so what we have to look at from a scouting standpoint is the physical tools, and that's why our scouting index that we use is so unique, because we factor in all these things and we have to ignore some things that might catch a recruiter's eye at times. I'll use our California Regional Showcase from a couple of weeks ago as an example, that you saw similarities and generally accepted ways of doing things between players, that players knew where to be in certain situations, communication was pretty good, and just the ability for players to step on a ball field and compete with one another and to be in the right places. Now, from a scouting standpoint, what we have to look at is how do the physical tools allow those players to compete in college where they're going to be required to know that information. It's not going to be an option to not have that information any longer. As Creasel draws the bases loaded walk for an RBI. And to continue on that point, we feel like a lot of regions have been overlooked for that simple fact. And I think there's a couple players here today that represent that, your Midwest kids, that have a little bit harder time getting out there because of some of the bias that has existed in the sport, that recruiters look for the polish instead of able to look at the raw tools and how that translates into being a successful ball player at your level. Miranda Holwin, 2017 from Cibolo, Texas, at the plate. Holwin will typically see a lot of pitches. Lead off two-hole type instincts. And when Holmesley has stayed right there, she's gotten the call. And about the best the red team's done off of that pitch has been hard foul balls to the third base side. Umpire indicates she just got a piece of that one. Holmesley and Labus from the same travel program, both currently playing for Austin's Finest. And I even like the fact that a player like Reagan Williams is on that foul ball so quick. I know that's something that recruiters will look for, and it can be a difference maker. Just a kid that's ready at all times. And again, Williams showing just good instincts at third base. Leyva spends most of her time in the infield, so probably unaware that she can stretch out and take that ball back to first base right now. Again, that goes back to some of the polish that we talk about players. Knowing the situation and what to do in a situation sometimes doesn't transcend a player who is not currently aware of what to do in a situation, but has superior physical tools that, coupled with that information, makes her a better talent. Karen Tennis on the pitch as we head to the top of the 5th inning. Red and green all knotted up at 2 apiece. Summer Harper will lead it off for our green team. A 2016 out of Cypress, Texas. Nixon at third, Holguin at short, Burdick at second, and Creasel at first base here in the top half of the 5th inning. Tennis, a 2014 out of League City, Texas. Is quickly ahead, 0-2. Starting to work the drop ball over already. A very important pitch for Tennis to throw. Mackenzie Jones back behind the plate now to catch Tennis. And that's really what you can expect out of Karen Tennis right there. Even when she's going for the strikeout, even when she's overthrowing a little bit on her 0-2 and 1-2 pitches, the ball's down. As long as she's partnered up with a catcher that can block the ball and understands that, she's going to have an outstanding chance of getting a hitter to hit a weak ground ball or to try to pull off of a ball on the outside corner and swing and miss. Holmesley at the plate for green. And the drop that Tennis is showing right there is just a pure 12-6. Even looks like it backs up a little bit at times. And again, I think that's why it's so effective, especially to right-handed hitters, is the fact that they're not used to seeing that 12-6 break on anything that's thrown down. So many pitchers cut across the ball and give them that two-dimensional look versus that straight, just one plane break that's much more effective and that you see a lot more at the higher levels of college softball. Aubrey Spasic up with 2 outs. Spasic even able to steal a base with a hurt ankle. And a nice pickup by Alexis Nixon to get the speedy Spasic out of first base. And that'll do it for the top of the 5th. We'll head to the bottom of the 5th, still tied at 2. Green and red here in Game 1 of the Houston National Showcase in 2012. A new pitcher to report for the green team, Summer Harper, out of Cypress, Texas, and Cy-Fair High School, 2016. And she'll square off against Brianna Davis to lead it off here. Alexis Greathouse at first base, Kennedy Crease at second, Anastasia Labus at short, and Reagan Williams at third base. Marley Boyd slides back behind the plate this inning to do the catching duties for Harper. And Davis is just strong enough to fight that one off her hands and dump it in behind Crease at second base and in front of Holmesley out in right field. Alexis Nixon will hit with the runner on first base and nobody out. And really like the fact that Williams doesn't even have to think about it. That's something we saw in Des Moines, that she just has the instincts that as soon as the ball's hit, her mind's made up, she knows where the play is, and she's just real fluid. And as you saw there, she makes a throw to a player that she's never had to throw a ball across the infield to, makes that throw with confidence, gets it there on time, in rhythm, and makes a perfect throw to our second baseman. And I think a lot of coaches will walk away from this event just really looking at the fact of how active Williams is on the infield. Katie Burdick at the plate. And Burdick able to do the impossible there and actually get a ball by Reagan Williams. Very hard hit ball to get it by Williams there, as a matter of fact. Karen Tennis will hit with Nixon at second, Burdick at first, and one out. Burdick and Nixon with pretty good speed on the bases. And our 2017 shortstop Labus with the flip on the dive. And you should watch here, she never loses eye contact with her second baseman the entire time. Doesn't have to look to find the ball. knows where she has to keep her eyes, and that allows her to make that throw with confidence, knowing that Crease is going to be at second base. And obviously the play before that where Williams is able to hit Crease over the bag, it gives Levis confidence that she knows Crease is going to be there for her. And that's one of the hardest things in these events is middle infielders having to sync up and work with each other, because there's so much rhythm and repetition that's involved with good middle infield combinations working with each other. But they do a nice job there. Ball will get past Boyd, and Nixon will score. This will allow the red team to take a 3-2 lead here in the bottom of the 5th inning. And that'll give Melissa Rodriguez a shot to drive in the 4th run with a runner at third base and 2 outs. Karen Tennis to runner at third. And that's a situation where the speed of Rodriguez causes the mistake from Crease at second base. She's peeking early to see where Rodriguez is because she knows that she can run. And with a 2-run lead with a left-handed batter at the plate who has some slap ability, this will be a pretty good time to see if Rodriguez can take off and get in the scoring position for Tossie. Tossie looking like she's going to go with the slap again. And an excellent throw from Reagan Williams across the infield. Perfect throw as usual. And Tossie showing some pretty good touch on that slap too. Karen Tennis on for her 2nd inning of work here at the top of the 6th for the red team. Kennedy Crease will lead it off.
You're on to something.
Crease seeing the bulk of her time at second base so far today.
Hey, lower the camera down a little bit. Something to think about for next time.
Last inning, Crease had to cover the bag for the ball hit to Williams at third base. Had a nice timing play there and had to hang in on the bag as Levis was flipping a ball to her to get the lead runner to try to start a double play feed. Tennis retired the side in order in the top of the 5th. Made it look easy. Mackenzie Jones still doing the catching. Doing a nice job of really trying to get around the ball that's outside. Try to frame it and stick it a little bit. Burdick up at second. Creasel playing back. And Tennis showing her changeup there for the first time today. Gets Crease swinging. And the thing that really makes that changeup really tough is that it's starting at the same height and rides the same plane as her drop ball that's been so effective. And so if you were a hitter and you saw that, if you saw a drop ball start at that same height, you would have to attack it because that's probably going to be the best pitch that you're going to see from Tennis in the at-bat. And then she's able to pull the string on it at that same height on the changeup, and you know, at that point the hitter's got no chance if she's never seen it. Tana Huey back at the plate for the green team, and she'll ground one to Tennis at circle. Tennis obviously able to handle that. as you'll see tennis at shortstop a little bit. You've seen her there already. You'll see her there the rest of the day too. Fields her position very well in the circle. And that'll bring up the 2017 shortstop catcher out of Austin, Anastasia Labus, who's made several good defensive plays already. And she'll test out tennis in the circle again, on to first, and that'll do it. Hannah Parker to lead it off for the red team as we head to the bottom of the 6th. Summer Harper will be on for her second inning of work. As we mentioned earlier, Parker, a pretty good power hitting prospect too. Could play first base at the next level when she's not pitching, or might have a choice to make there. But does hit with power. Not a bad spot there from Harper. Parker doing an excellent job there as you go up to the replay of keeping the hands back while the lower half gets open and really getting into her legs in this swing. Parker not a dead red kid on the inside half of the plate, but predominantly a pull hitter for power. Can hit the ball the other way, but doesn't show all of her power that way. Mackenzie Jones now up, singled in her last at bat. Again, the pitch that pitchers have to watch out with Jones is elevating anything. As you watch Jones swing, the bat angle is very flat, which allows her to be very effective from the waist up. Makes it a little bit more difficult for her to change the angle of the barrel to hit the ball as it's below the waist. And the bobble by Labus might have caused Parker to hesitate just enough to get thrown out going to third base on that play. I really feel like if Labus fields that ball cleanly, that Parker's feet are moving the entire time. She probably makes her way to third base easily instead of getting tagged out at third base. Very nice job, Labus. Plenty of arm to get it across to Greathouse. Greathouse making a throw on time and on target. And, of course, Reagan Williams at third base is going to put the tag down quickly and do her job there, too. Cullen's back at the plate for the red team. As I talked about earlier, Cullen's really starting to show signs of swinging the bat better from the right side. In a couple of at-bats today, you've seen the tendency to try to push the ball a little bit, which is something she's got away from quite a bit in the last 7 or 8 months since we've seen her the first time. So, and again, the barrel just gets stuck there just a little bit. That as Caroline becomes more comfortable with her swing and gets more reps from the right side, you'll see the barrel release a lot stronger and her start putting up more of the power numbers that we expect her to, and to hit a lot of extra base hits, especially doubles, as she keeps progressing. Hannah Parker will be back in the circle here in the top of the 7th. Mary Beth Gorsuch leads it off. Gorsuch tripled off Parker earlier today. And you'll see Gorsuch go back out to the circle for the bottom half of the 7th inning. And we'll see if Parker's able to get herself in a little bit better rhythm here than she was earlier. You saw in the second inning she was able to start working through her pitches a little bit more, get a little bit more comfortable with Jones behind the plate. And Parker presents that unique challenge to hitters where she'll work from up to down in the strike zone versus down to up. The changeup not working for there, but not afraid to go to the changeup in a 2-0 count. And if she backdoors the curveball right there, it's just off the plate long enough to get a lot of hitters to give up. And when they take a swing, that's really basically all they can do with it. And that's why it's so important for Parker to have the changeup or to have the drop that she can work off of the curve. Because if we're sitting on 8 or 10 pitch at bats and all you have is a curve that's backdooring, then we run the risk of having to put the ball over the plate just to get the hitter to do something to save our pitch count. But there she goes with the changeup, works the changeup off of the curveball, which makes it highly effective. Again, that's the key for Parker. Working the changeup off of the curve, not off of the drop. Alexis Greathouse back in the plate. And that's a key that we want to stress to a lot of young pitchers out there, is the fact that you don't have to throw 6 or 7 different pitches when 5 or 6 are just average. You need pitches like Parker's showing right now that are go-to pitches that can get anybody out. Nice play by Katie Burdick at second base, helping out her high school teammate Hannah Parker in the circle. And Parker showing off really the fact that if you have quality pitches that you can work to a variety of locations and even change speeds with and elevate a little bit if you need to, you can get really good hitters like Gorsuch and Greathouse to change their swing to accommodate to your pitching. Which is obviously one of the hardest things to do as a pitcher. And when you've got your good stuff working, you don't have to go to plan B because you can get swings. So you see Boyd slow her bat down. Paige Tossie in left field with the play. The diving catch will bring us to the bottom of the 7th inning. Red still up 4-2 on green. Ashley Creasel will lead it off for the red team. And Mary Beth Gorsuch will be back in the circle for her second time. Gorsuch worked the first 2 innings for the Lime team. Williams, Labus, Crease, and Requejo on the infield. Marley Boyd goes back behind the plate to work with Gorsuch. Mary Beth Gorsuch out of Louisville, Texas, a freshman this year. Gorsuch will pitch in one of the toughest high school districts in the state of Texas. We'll see how the hand responds. Earlier in the game, It took a few pitches, even into the second inning, before she was really able to get across her curveball and over the top of her drop to start locating a little bit better. Better job there of doing that too. Creasel definitely looking to hit the ball the other way today. Holguin on deck. And that's one of the things that Gorsuch has to make sure that she's not really overdoing her body positioning when she tries to go out of the zone to get the strikeout on a curve. That's one of the things that we saw at her Houston Regional Showcase a few months ago, was the fact that when she really tried to work off the plate in or out, it was a difference in body angle, and she tried to do a lot with her body versus doing a lot with her touch and her spin. Creasel's been a tough out today. She's spoiled several of those pitches. Gorsuch has made several good pitches here that she keeps fighting off. Huey, with really good speed in the outfield, took a good angle and really did a nice job of actually getting to that ball that was hit pretty hard before it got to the wall out there. Looks like that throw might have been on target to second base, and we had to play if we didn't cut it. And as you'll notice, we will play the bottom of the seventh no matter what, so that both sides have the same amount of innings pitched and the same opportunity to swing the bat today. Purely for the scouting aspect. Nice job by Gorsuch there of shaking off and going to the drop ball. She knows how her hand's feeling better than anybody, and so it's nice to see a young pitcher take the liberty and change the sign and throw what she knows is a good pitch in that situation, because too often as pitchers are raised now with travel in high school, that catchers don't know how to call pitches and pitchers don't have an identity and a voice because we've got adults doing all the work. And that's what we really like to see out of pitchers, is who's going to be able to work themselves through a tough spot. And that's one thing we feel like we walk away knowing about every pitcher, is the fact that they can pitch in a tight spot and work their way out of it, because we've seen them have to go ahead and deal with some circumstances in our events because they've had to shake off catchers they don't know and show leadership and be disciplined with what they're doing. And Holguin receives an extra pitch there because she had already walked twice today, and we wanted to make sure that she's not going to walk for a third time. Cynthia Hoff back at the plate. 2016 out of Grapevine High School in Grapevine, Texas. Playing first and third today. We talked about Hoff's swing a little bit earlier. The fact that when you watch her swing, it appears long, but in actuality, it's one of the swings that just stays in the zone forever. She's showing a small instinct there to not be as decisive on the ball up. I believe that's where you see her narrow base as a hitter give her just a little bit of trouble. That because the base is narrow, the upper body has to start to swing a little bit, and so it's very easy as the ball's rising to go ahead and continue what you've already started with the upper half. So as she adds some lower body action into the swing, I think you'll see the instinct and the ability to hit the ball up in the zone improve quite a bit. And sometimes when you look at hitters like Hoff, the appearance of a swing looking a little bit long sometimes is relative to the width of their feet. A lot of times as scouts or recruiters, we look at players whose feet are spread apart and it looks like their swing's a little bit shorter. And then sometimes we look at hitters whose feet are narrow and we feel like the swing looks a little bit longer. Well, it's all relative to the width of the feet and what the barrel looks like and what extension looks like. So we really have to be able to break that down and look at it objectively and realize some of those things before we make a judgment on a hitter. Brianna Davis steps in for the red team. 2015 out of Sugar Land, Texas. Outfielder. And coaches, as we draw to the conclusion of game number 1, it's important to understand that if you like a player or want to know more information about a player, all you have to do is click on that player's name on the roster and it will take you to their scouting report and any updated video and any historical video that we have on that player. If it's a player watching and you want to participate in a national showcase, visit our website, look at the regional showcase schedule, and see if you can advance to a national from the regional showcase dates. The schedule's updated constantly. Plenty of spots to be seen. And that'll wrap it up for Game 1 from the Houston National Showcase. Games 2 and 3 are online. Thanks for watching.